Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now today we have here a sort of an affordable phone that's really focused on photography, and the phone that we are talking about here is actually the vivo V30e. Now this device comes in at RM1399, and again for the price of under 1.5k here in Malaysia, we're not seeing a lot of phones that are really focused on photography. We have like a couple of gaming phones going on, like the iQOO that I did a couple of days back. But this guy, the vivo V30e for RM1399, is really focused on photography, and I did manage to test it out over the past few days, so let's check out what this device has to offer. Now first things first, let's talk a bit about the design, because the design is actually a pretty interesting one. What we have at the back here is what Vivo is calling the Sky Mirror colorway, and this is actually inspired by the Sky Mirror Lake that we have somewhere in Malaysia. Now how this works is basically when you tilt the device from side to side, you might see a sort of like a shift in colors going on, and it's actually quite nice. I wouldn't say that it stands out too much, it's not so flashy, but it's also quite subtle at the back, so I do like it very much. Now one thing that I really like about this device is how slim it really is. Now when I first picked it up for the first time, I noticed that it's very lightweight, super thin, and we have curved panels going on at the back as well as at the front, and overall it's just feeling very good in hand. Doesn't matter if you're putting it in your pocket as well, you won't really feel like a weight in your hands. Alright, so in terms of the water protection, we actually do have IP64 on here, so that means you don't have to worry about your device getting wet, getting splashed by the rain. In fact, you can even put it under the pool and capture a couple of photos. Now moving on, let's talk a bit about the more interesting part of today's story, and that's actually in terms of the cameras at the back. Now unlike other phones that always has triple camera setups, the vivo V30e is pretty straightforward. We have a dual camera setup. There's no 2-megapixel macro lens on board. What we have here is a primary shooter that is a 50-megapixel Sony IMX882, and you also have that 8-megapixel ultra-wide whenever you want more flexibility. If you look on the right, you might notice that we have the Aura Light Portrait 3.0, you know, that LED ring that actually helps you out with your portraits. So let's talk about the photos themselves. Now, I did take a couple of portraits, and I noticed that the portraits on here is actually very similar, or it reminds me of Vivo's more expensive flagship, which is the Vivo X100 series. You actually have very good object separation, and I think the skin tones as well as just taking portraits on Vivo devices tends to look a bit better than other devices. However, when you talk about taking photos on a day-to-day, let's say you're not taking a lot of portraits, you're just taking normal photos, I also found that it was actually a very fun camera to play with. Now I was just out in the park a couple of days back, I think, and there's actually 3 different modes to the kind of photos that you can take. You can have the natural look, the vivid look, or the textured look. You know, obviously the natural and the vivid, you know, self-explanatory, but the textured look was actually something that I found to be very fun to play with. So like I said, I took a couple of photos, and it actually looked like the shots were color graded to a very nice tone that you can definitely share right away to your social media. Now I noticed that this works very well if you have a lot of greens, you have a colorful, a vibrant environment. This is where the textured look will really give that punch to the photo itself, make it stand out a little bit more, make it look a bit more interesting, give it a bit more vibe. Obviously, if you want to go back to the natural or the vivid look, you can also do that, but I think with the textured mode on board, you can definitely take a different set of photos, give it a bit more of a unique perspective to the photos that you are taking. So just in terms of the camera experience, I was very pleasantly surprised at a camera of this price point that was actually able to take these kind of photos. Now in case you are wondering about the display at the front, we do have here a 6.78-inch AMOLED display. It's actually fairly bright. I was taking photos outdoors and I could still see the display. The good thing is that you have that 120Hz refresh rate on board, so everything is a bit more smoother. I noticed that the contrast levels, the viewing angles was also great on this display. It's a bit curved on the sides to give it a more slim kind of profile, and overall, again, no issues with the display, a pretty good one, again at this price point. Now moving on to the battery itself. Now the battery life actually held up very well. We have here a 5500 mAh battery in this very slim form factor. Again, I don't know how Vivo fits such a large battery into such a slim body. You also have that 44-watt flash charge just in case you want to charge things up. And based on my experience, after taking a couple of hundred of photos, you know, yesterday, I actually realized that the battery life did held up very well, so you don't really have to worry too much about battery life. Power for this device, however, is coming from the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. Now this is sort of like an entry-level kind of Snapdragon processor. The good thing here is that it is Snapdragon, that means a lot of games are optimized for it. But this is not really a gaming phone, so if you're just using your phone on a day-to-day, everything will actually run very smoothly. I was just browsing through the photos and everything loaded up pretty quickly. Now this is definitely helped by the 8+8GB of RAM, and you also have that 256GB of internal memory, which you can actually expand via microSD to up to 1TB. So again, you don't really see microSD support on a phone at this price range these days. So in a nutshell, What can I say about the vivo V30e? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. If you're looking for a phone under 1.5K, or again to be specific, RM1399, that can actually take really good photos, really good portraits as well. This is definitely something that you should consider because of those sensors as well as Vivo's color tuning on board. Other than that, it also comes in this really nice and slim form factor, which I think is just very comfortable to hold and use. Anyways, if you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll put in some links if you want to check out those official links by Vivo. And again, thank you for watching today's video all the way to the end. Don't forget to drop a like and sub to the channel to see more content. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Do take care and stay safe. Bye bye.